the human being is one of the few animals that can spit things out. That is, we can taste it before we have to swallow it. The more primitive animals, once something gets in their mouth, they have to swallow it, whether it's poisonous or not. So you see, whether we take something into our system or spit it out is a very important function that makes us secure and can define ourselves.
This very option that he has is what, in a sense, also causes, I suppose, his choice. When the child is autistic and has been born in a hostile environment that he senses, then this option horrifies him, doesn't it?
That's right. Yeah, you have put it very well. It's a horror, really. It's a horror of life.
You can leave the rest and then put it in there after you drink some. Want to do that? Okay.
Sixteen, 17, 18, 19. 16, 17, 18, 19. Had a good summer with Satan with Zoe. Them had a good summer with Satan, Zoe, Adam. Satan, Zoe had a good summer. Satan, Zoe, Adam had a good summer. Satan, Zoe had a good summer with Tom.
The thoughts of youth are long, long thoughts. What dreams, what feelings shape the pattern that we call the innocence of childhood? We look at their drawings and are amazed at the knowledge and passion and insight that they unwittingly reveal. Who can understand Tommy, even when he tries to tell us how he feels?
So we are dumb. Say sometimes so we are dumb. Say sometimes so we are dumb.
Oh, okay.
Or was he handheld or something?
Okay.
That looks enough like a camera that you could just take.
Oh yeah, that look like a camera. You can take pictures, Mio.
Held it.
Oh, movies.
You anchor now.
Right, Mio?
Yeah.
Was Tom working on Dan's picture?
Yeah.
Why don't you show my mom what it was? There's this.
Doing pretty good.
Very nice. Huh?
That's good.
There's a remarkable institution on the south side of Chicago. Institution perhaps is the wrong word to use, in which freedom is a key concept, involving children, emotionally disturbed children. The Sonia Shankman Orthogenic School at the University of Chicago, which the director is Dr. Bruno Bettelheim, our guest this morning. The phrase itself, the empty fortress, I think has so many meanings, even as we think about it now, you and I, living in the middle of the 20th century, last half, the empty fortress. You use the word, the title, the empty fortress. The child then builds up a protective fortress.
That's right. He's so afraid of the world and what the world might do to him that all his energy goes into protection And when all the energy goes into protection, then we have no energy left to build up the self.
But it's this protection against man, against life.
Against life,
Against
yes.
life.
Everything in life is dangerous.
Something happened during your observations at Dachau and in the other at Buchenwald and Dachau. Something happens to the inmates of a concentration camp that is not removed to what happens to an autistic child.
Well, there are parallels. There are parallels, of course. Those unfortunate who walk themselves to the gas chambers and have in this way given all will to live because there is no future in life. And that, of course, is a parallel position.
You don't look real.
You don't look real?
Yeah.
Autism, then, is what? It's a fantasy life.
Well, it's
removal
an
from
extreme
reality.
degree of this alienation. It's an extreme of withdrawal. Such a withdrawal from stimuli and from contact with others in the world also leads to a terrible depletion of the inner life.
He compares mothers to devouring witches. The father is an infanticidal king, that the mother is an SS guard in a concentration camp, and that the precipitating factor in infantile autism is the parent's wish that his child should not exist. So not just a refrigerator mother who is cold and not caring, but actually that she wanted the child dead. Would you mind if I did that sometime?
No. Goodness.
Take a look at your dad.
He, as he got older, if you remember, didn't like being touched.
Yeah.
It's really something when he comes here and I have to say, do you want to give me a hug? Or can I give you
Oh,
a hug, Tom?
yeah. Oh.
And he comes and
That's about it?
yeah. Now there's a mother. Look at me. I'm sitting there with a cigarette,
Oh, that's an excellent picture.
feeding that baby.
Aw. Look how comfy the baby is.
He looks pretty happy.
He does. And that's a happy kid.
Yeah. It is.
I think that's like 100% happy, and then
It's all down.
yeah, it's all downhill from there. At least you think you're pretty happy at that point.
Why not? You're sitting there with your bottle.
Yeah, what else is there?
Could be better. Life is good.
Yeah. We had moved to Chicago about 1966, 67. It was clear by that time, Tom was probably 6, 7 years old at the time, that there was something wrong with him. So they took him to this expert in Chicago, Bruno Bettelheim, and he diagnosed him with autism. But he also had this crazy theory that it was my mom's fault, and told my parents that it was my mom's fault, that she had rejected him in the womb, and that the treatment was to take him out of the home.
And I would say that for most of our parents, whose children have to come to the orthogenic school, They have their hands so full with what to them seems an unmanageable problem, namely to manage their own life, that there's just no interest or energy or affection left for the child, that they have nothing to share with anybody, nothing to give, and then the presence of the child is such a terrible, aggravating and frustrating experience to them, because there's a human being to demand something from them that they know they can't give. And people respond to such experience in a rather violent way.
My dad was furious. I guess I know my siblings have told me that people had to restrain him from punching Bettelheim at the time. He was so angry about it. But they followed the advice thinking that this would make him better. It turns out it was some guy's farm, and supposedly it was another family, a more loving family, that would raise him.
He's the one that said Tom should go out to this farm, and they had some other kids there, and I guess I don't remember much about it because I don't want to. Mm-hmm. That was a real mistake on our part.
I know it's the mother who's responsible for the child's character. That's why I've tried so hard with Tommy.
You know that guidance clinic over on Pine Street?
Yes.
Well, it's set up to handle just this sort of problem. We feel very strongly that you should take Tommy over there. They're nice people, easy to talk to.
But what can they do? Tommy's my child.
Are you picking out movies, Tom?
Season so eat Tom. Season so eat Tom.
Okay. What is it, you suppose, just the rhythm of the pages?
Mm-hmm. And Tom can read some.
Yeah, he can. He keeps it a secret.
Yeah.
Don't you, Tom?
When people are starving, they may starve in different ways, but if they lack access to protein, they can't make protein. When they can't make protein, they get swelling. Kwashiorkor is a kind of malnutrition that's protein-calorie malnutrition. Not only do they get really skinny, but they get really big bellies, and it can fill full of fluid. It's a kind of thing that I remember seeing on cover of a record album by George Harrison. It was a concert for Bangladesh, and it had this starving kid with a big belly, and Tom, he looked just like it. In fact, that was right around the same time. Somebody didn't feed him. That's the only reason that would happen.
In fact, you use the word here, anorexia.
Yeah.
That means will not eat.
Will not eat, yes. Anorexia is a self-starvation out of psychological reasons, and a very dangerous disease. And we have been so far relatively successful with anorexic children, although in the literature, most of them who become anorexic very early die. This is, again, even one of the worst withdrawal from the world, where you don't even take in food or liquids.
Because food and liquids are dangerous, because they're life. They're the bread of life, the wine of life.
And they come from the outside.
From the outside.
This is the extremity of walling yourself up from the outside. It's a fortress-like defense.
The only time I remember going was to pick him up. But I know my dad had been there on a couple occasions to visit. He knew that Tom looked like a skeleton. I mean, it wasn't hard to see that he wasn't being taken care of, he wasn't eating. My understanding was that we were there to get Tom to take to Omaha, and that wasn't done in a formalized legal fashion. No papers exchanged hands. We just pulled up the car, he walked over to get Tom, sat him down, we drove away fast. But I remember my mom crying because she was just changing his clothes and he was a skeleton with a big belly. You know, you mention it to other people and they look at you like, what happened? And they're not aware that this went on, that he did this with lots of people, that Bettelheim took lots of kids away from their parents, and some of them he kept in his school in Chicago, and some of them he put on farms, and you just wonder what happened to all of them, because my brother can't have been the only one who was starving to death. You know, you just wonder what they did with all those kids.
Dude, I've done 3 of those. That's the only one that's
Tom. We say sin so we soft. We say sin so we soft.
Who did this?
Tom.
Tommy, did you do that?
I made stores so long, Tom.
That's cool.
I like to have all my chicks close by, but they say he's quite content there. He has a couple buddies that he does things with, and we hear from him every 2 or 3 weeks. He's a good guy to have around. He helps a lot, you know, and anyhow.
good, Tom. It's a nice smile. You do anything fun today, Tom?
Fun.
We all wish not to have labored in vain. We all want to think that there's some continuity to what we have tried to do. The parents rightly could have the feeling that what they labored for will be transmitted by them to their children who will carry on after them. This gave to their efforts a certain sense of eternity. Love was really not necessary to build the happiness of our family on such an uncertain and fickle and ambivalent and demanding thing as love. And it doesn't work. It never worked, and I doubt it ever will.
Okay, Tom, finish up, bud. Sit back down and go back to work, okay? Thank you, bud. Good job, Tom. I didn't know you still danced. It's funny or kind of boring?
Kind of spoil-ween. Kind of spoil-ween. Kind of spoil-ween. Kind of spoil-ween.
Or kind of fun?
I've been kind of fun. I've been kind of fun.